Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the City of Farmers Branch Study Session Meeting. It is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. The time is 3 p.m. We will begin, as always, with regular agenda items. The only one that I would like to discuss is, or I guess it's two, but it's one item, J3 and J4. Does anyone have any problem moving these to the consent agenda?
What was that again? J4?
J3 and J4, city contracts.
I'm all right with that.
Cool beans.
No problems.
Moving that right along. Okay, I'm gonna start on my right, Councilmember Driscoll.
We're on the study session, right? Yeah. On the topic of our strategic planning topics,
Let's discuss that at A5.
okay, all right. No, otherwise I'm good.
Okay, Councilmember Merritt.
I had the opportunity to email the city administration. They answered a couple of questions that I had related to a couple of items, and I'm actually looking for the numbers so I can tell everyone what they were. One was on the I-8 for the ready-mix concrete contract. Those questions were answered. I also had a question related to the demo rebuild, which was also answered on, that would be I-3. And let's see if I think that's it, Mayor. Thank you. Those were answered.
All right. Councilmember Lynn.
I did have a question regarding J4, and that was, when would this work begin, and how long would it take to complete?
Well, there's 180 days in the contract for how long, as soon as we get the approval from council, we get the contracts done, that will begin.
Okay, do the neighbors in that area need to be notified?
They will be. The
Okay.
contractor's responsible to put flyers out and take care of the notification process. We do that on every project.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, Mayor. None for me.
Cool. All right, and we will move to A2. Discuss redistricting commission appointment process.
Mayor and Council, Amy Pucana, City Secretary at City of Farmers Branch. Last week, we had a 60-plus PowerPoint presentation from an attorney. This is a 6 to 7 slideshow reduction from City Secretary. We're going to cover the establishment of a redistricting commission. We're going to cover the criteria, its purpose, and the timeline. So the city charter states that we shall appoint a redistricting commission in January. The city council shall designate a chair, and that we shall provide fair and balanced representation of all geographical areas in our districts. In the city charter, it states that we should have a total membership that reflects the racial and ethnic makeup of the city's population. Our racial and ethnic population shows 43% Hispanic, 36% Anglo, and 21% Asian, African American. So we need to keep that in mind. The criteria, they must be a registered voter. They have to meet all the requirements that they do to run for a board and commission. Pass the background check. Whoever serves cannot run for council. So just remember that within a year of serving on the redistricting commission, they cannot run for a council seat. And that includes this May and next May because it'll still be in process. The purpose, obviously, is to review our boundaries. Our total population was 35,770. The equal distribution was 7,154 with a 10% deviation, according to the attorney. They shall meet within the 6-month time frame and review the findings with you, and you will establish an ordinance to make these changes. Our timeline is tonight, starting this process. December 8th, which is tomorrow, I'm going to email each of you a Dallas County voters list for your district. I'm asking that you select 2 applicants per your district and provide me with their contact information if you have it, And that way I can have them fill out an application, run their background check, and my goal, my hope, my dream, my Christmas present is that December 15th, you'll have 2 people given to me so that I conduct that background check, and then in January, we can appoint. So January 18th would be the last day to appoint a commission. I'd like to do it that first meeting if possible, just to get them going. January through May, they will meet. June 7th is a tentative date to provide a final report to you. And then on June 21st, we'll adopt an ordinance to amend the boundaries. Questions?
One, not really a question, but Amy, thanks for putting this together. One recommendation, just so that maybe we don't have to come back and be quick about what we need to do to make sure that the makeup meets the criteria in terms of the demographics, is I would like to recommend that everyone also submit one alternate as well, in case we need to move some people around to make it work. So that would give everyone, y'all 5, 3 people to potentially choose from, 2 that you have as priority, and then 1 as an alternate, so that if Amy needs to sub one in to make the numbers work and meet this criteria, it's done so more quickly. Just a thought.
I like that idea. I would just suggest that if there has to be a change made due to ensure that we meet the demographics, which I think is great, that we just be notified. Like for example, if my alternate needs to move up, just to notify me of that, or to see if there's any other thing we can work out amongst each other, so that way we make it quick.
Councilor Merlin?
So if we're going to nominate 2 individuals, that still leaves a chair to be selected. Is that an additional person in regards to the 10 people that are going to be nominated? Or?
My hope would be you guys all select 2, plus an alternate that gets to be moved in, and if it's okay with the council, I'll select the chairperson.
Okay. And if we have a Hispanic candidate from, say, our own district, that would count.
Correct?
So it's
It would
not
count.
all Hispanic from District 1 or other district, whatever.
Yeah, the hope is that we're selecting from a variety of demographics, so that hopefully we get that true makeup. If you saw the numbers, it's almost 1-to-1 Anglo to Hispanic and then other, but we need to fill that to make sure that it's representative. So I would look and ask everyone to take consideration and broaden the search, and then we can come back and Amy will let us know if we need to make any modifications, but hopefully we don't. But the purpose of the alternate is to streamline that so that Amy could make a quick plug and play if we needed to make something work, because someone had selected someone that better fits that criteria to move it forward. Just some thoughts. I mean, is there anything that's you would change with that, or?
No, I didn't know if there's going to be 10 members plus
10 plus 1.
1. So,
That's 11. That way it's for voting purposes.
okay. And that 1 will come from, I guess, one of the alternate selections, or whatever that pool is. We're given 3.
I was just going to choose 1 myself. You all get to choose 2. I'm going to choose 1. They'll be the chairperson, and that'll be the one oddball to uneven the scales.
I don't have any questions, but I've been thinking along the same lines as you, because this is also a lengthy process. It's spread out over half a year and things change, circumstances change. So I was going to also recommend we have 1 alternate. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea maybe to have 2, because this is a very important, task. And 2 alternates, that if something happens, and this is very important, going on to the voting and district lines and all of that. And just to be on the safe side, just an idea. But I certainly want to have at least 1 alternate for each of us, because things do happen.
Does anyone here think we need 2 alternates?
I think 1's fine.
Well, I think the question, if I may, Michael, are you referring to having an alternate participate?
Kind of like our boards and commissions.
Correct. Versus simply having 1 to fill the 2 slots. And I think perhaps I'm asking the mayor a little bit, if that's where you were going, that we'd have an alternate in order to make up 10 seats. Seems like Mr. Driscoll is bringing an opportunity to have an alternate participate in the listening in order for continuity, if you will. Is that correct? Am I?
Not necessarily, but, do we know how many meetings this group would likely have spread out over this 6 months process. And I'm assuming the first 3 months would be the more critical, and the other 3 would be kind of fine tuning things.
I have not had a set timeline of how the meetings will work, but I would think it would be similar to the Charter Commission, which was pretty much almost twice a month
Yeah.
to begin with.
This isn't going to be that hard of a deal.
Yeah,
It's really not.
I think part of the interview process is making sure that people can commit this amount of time and be dedicated to it. And if someone does have to drop, we can all agree that a replacement would come from the alternates that you all select. That way, we don't have to go search, view the hope, but
But we agree on one alternate. Yep,
Per-
yeah, I'm fine with that. yeah.
okay.
Just clarifying, thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments as it relates to the redistricting process and the commission? No? Okay. Amy, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is A3, review FBTX Connect, October through November 2021 performance data. Mr. Bonano.
Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Leo Bonano, Code Enforcement Manager. Good to see you all again. I have been asked to collect data and present some of that to you based on the city's new app, FBTX Connect. If you all recall, staff led by our IT director, Mark Samuels, tested a number of software applications last year and chose what's the tool that we chose is called C-Click Fix, and that is branded to the public as FBTX Connect. So that's the tool we opted to use, and it went live on a limited basis on October 1, and then live to the public on an official basis on October 11th. And what we're going to go through today, very briefly, is some of the data that we've pulled out of the app so you can see how things are going. There is data here from every division/department that's on the app. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on my own data because that's what I know. And the other department heads and managers are here if you have questions about that. So I'll try to use my own data to make sure you have a good understanding of how everything's going. Again, these are the departments that are currently on the app /division. So code enforcement, animal services, the solid waste arm of sustainability, public works, and parks. Those are the departments that are currently engaging using the app. And this is just an FYI for you all. I thought you might be interested in the number of downloads that we've had since the app has gone live. The Apple app is winning by far. If you had your money on Apple, you're winning. And that's about, let's say, 1,600 and change users, downloads, as opposed to Android, that's about 150 or so. So that's where we are as of the end of November. All of the departments and divisions on FBTX Connect from October 1st to November 30th, their compiled data is reflected here. So we have a total of 484 requests submitted through the app. That's what they're called, requests. We've altogether closed 455. The average time to acknowledge a request is about a day, and the average time to close a request is almost 4 days. I want to make sure that you understand the verbiage here because that is specific to the app. The time to acknowledge a request, what that means is the member of the public has turned in an issue or a question of some kind, and the staff has responded with some initial acknowledgement of, I've got your question and I'm going to respond. That's what an acknowledgement is. And so you'll see that particular verbiage throughout the presentation. Acknowledgement means we received your inquiry and we're going to get started. And I think personally that's a pretty good piece of data for today, given how new the system is to all of us. How fast we're getting back to people has a good impact on how they feel about the app. The other item is requests closed within SLA. SLA stands for Service Level Agreement, and this is important for you to understand for today because it varies from division to division. Your service level agreement is established by the department directors or managers like myself, and they are essentially the deadlines that we have given our staff or office to do certain things, like acknowledge people or close their requests. Well, different departments have established different SLAs based on how they operate. So as we go through some of the data, you're going to see shifts in numbers, and I'll explain those. But SLA is an important concept to understand with respect to the app, the deadline that we give our offices to use the app successfully. This is an example. This is not an example. This is the real data from code enforcement from October 1st to November 30th. As you can see, vegetation tops the list in this time frame. That's not at all surprising given that October was the tail end of the growing season. And then we start to go down into trash and debris. Apartment units reflects apartments we received from tenants about their units. So that one's there. That one's especially important to us. Parking, junk vehicles includes private property and public property. You may remember, I believe it was October 1st, we took over junk and inoperable vehicles in the street from the police department. So that is included in that number there. Fences, graffiti, outside storage, the basic things that we do, all the way down to on-demand storage, which would be pods, which we created regulations for when we updated Chapter 56, and then garage sales and view obstructions. So all the way down, the big things that code enforcement deals with. The average days to close our issues is usually somewhere, the average is probably between 1.5 to 3 days, depending on the topic. But you can see how it breaks down by category in that third column. And then finally, the SLA rate. Again, this is the boundary that I have placed on my office and asked staff to meet that particular goal, how fast you acknowledge people and how fast you close your complaints. And you can see we're doing pretty well with 100% in a number of different categories, and the staff continue to improve on that as they get more and more familiar with the app. And so this is just a glimpse of code enforcement. And again, breaking down that first slide that we saw into just code enforcement specifically, again, one of the most important pieces of data I see today is the average time to acknowledge someone who has submitted something through the app. And we're doing that in under a day. So pretty proud of us for doing that. We want to make sure that people know that they have been heard. The public, just like anyone else, when you submit an email or make a phone call and you haven't heard from somebody soon, you start calling again and you start working your way up the chain, and that's totally understandable. So my office's goal is to get back to people as soon as possible, let them know we received your request and we're working on it. And for the period of October to November, we closed about 87% of all of our items within the SLA that I established. If you just take November, which I looked at separately, October was the October numbers dragged down the total a little bit because all the staff was getting used to the system. So if you look at November separately, we are actually up to 92%. So we're doing pretty good, I feel, for a new tool that's just been around for about 6 weeks. Did you have a question, sir?
Yes, if I could.
Yeah, you're good.
So your average time to acknowledge requests, somebody sends in something and it's about a day.
Right.
Okay. And that just means we received your request. Thank you, we will address, or we will look into it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's be sure I'm understanding on the closed request. Does that mean that you have taken action on a particular item? Like if it was high grass and weeds, that you went out and within that 2.7 days, you went out and addressed that on site?
That reflects the inspection. So an inspection took place and we responded to the complainant with the results of the inspection.
Okay.
That's what that refers to.
All right, just
And
wanted-
that's one of the, it's a good question. That is one of those topics, the closer request, that differs from division to division. So I'll go into that a little bit, and again, the others are here to explain, but in our office, that's when we close it, because we have other software to manage our cases.
Right.
So-
And so it would be important for the person who issued the complaint to know, okay, you went out and addressed it, but then the offender has whatever they have, 10 days, 30 days to complete. Because they may think, oh, you all said that you went and addressed it, but it's still high.
Yes, and actually our response, there are three responses, which is we inspected your property and didn't find a violation. We inspected the property and we did, or we don't need to inspect the property because we already have a case on it. So those are really the three options. Well, if it's a new issue, that's exactly what they get.
Okay.
They get an email saying, we found a problem, just so you know, here's the process. And it explains the whole thing, because we know that people are anxious to see results. So we lay out the legal process so that they don't get too disappointed when they don't see change in a day.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay. The next few slides are from varying departments. As I said, Animal Services, Parks, Public Works, Solid Waste. And the last slide I have here is a summary slide that gives you a snapshot of all of us kind of next to each other. And I want to make sure that some things are clear on this slide, because numbers do vary quite a bit depending on what you're looking at. As I just explained, when a code officer receives a request, we go out and first we acknowledge it, and then we go out and inspect the issue, and then we close the request based on the results after we share the results. And so that's how my office works. Well, some of the other departments are using a different methodology based on their work processes. For example, Public Works, if Public Works receives a complaint about a sidewalk, they are inspecting the sidewalk to see if there's a problem, but then the sidewalk issue gets put on a schedule to be repaired later. But their request in the system stays open until the sidewalk is repaired. So they are not turning around, they're not completing the project as quickly as my group is, if that makes sense. Their system is different, they have a different process. So when you see numbers like 41 and 87, that's why there's such a difference, is because our work processes are just different. Solid Waste, and Shane and I had a discussion about some of their SLAs, and his team had a goal of inspecting trash-related issues in one day, which they were doing successfully. However, you can't always go out the same day and pick up the trash you just saw. If it's a massive pile of trash, or if it's glass, they can't even take it at all. So each division and department has its own processes, and they have based their SLAs on those processes. So mine kind of stand out a bit because of the uniqueness. We have separate software for managing cases. So our goal is to acknowledge the resident, let them know what we're about to do, and then shut it down and move to our other software. But other departments don't necessarily operate that way. So with that, while I'm up here, does anyone have any questions about the code enforcement data that I've explained?
I just have one.
Yes.
Is there anything, and this is early days in the whole process, but is there anything in the data that has surprised you?
Not really. I've been lucky enough. I was part of the implementation team, and I also have administrative rights to poke around in the background. And I believe I told you all earlier in the year that my previous city used a system like this, and this is exactly what I experienced in my previous city. Code enforcement dominated the number of requests, but as far as city staff dedicating themselves, all city staff, to engaging and turning around responses, it seems very in line with what I have seen in the past, and it looks pretty good to me, to be honest.
Do you have any idea the number of other cities kind of in our comparable size or geographic area are using this?
A number of cities are
Roughly.
using software, but not necessarily this software. But I guess my answer without a specific number would be many. We did research other cities before we chose a software, and every decent-sized city seems to have invested in an app like this.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how the data maybe changes or maybe not, in the next 12, 18, 24 months.
Yeah,
as
well,
people
each
get used to
department,
it.
each department will face unique challenges throughout the year. We've gotten complaints for overgrown trees at parks. Well, those kinds of issues don't come up in the winter. So parks will see more activity, most likely in growing seasons than they do in non-growing seasons, with respect to the app. Yeah, it will be interesting, especially at the end of the first year, to see what we were all up against and how we did.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Leo.
Sure.
Councilmember Rotana.
Yes, well, first, I just want to commend staff for the quick turnaround for implementing something like this, and especially having data so quickly. I will say in my previous city role as a staffer, we went through a similar overhaul of a new software, and it took a year before kinks were resolved, before data was given to council. So I just want to commend everyone for their due diligence to make this successful, because I do think the data is going to be very integral when it comes to even strategy that we try to do in the future as a council. And so just want to thank you for your work, and I know you're helping lead this now. So Leo, best of luck moving forward.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
you're fine.
it really isn't just one of us.
Yeah, I know,
Mark
I know.
Samuels led the team in getting this in place,
Sure.
and that was great. And then the other departments that are currently involved with the app have really dedicated themselves to it. We all take
Definitely.
it very seriously. We work together. We do get oddball questions and requests, and it's like, where does this belong? So
Yeah.
we do have to coordinate every so often to solve unique problems, and all of the current staff that are using the app have been very dedicated to doing it. So it is very much a team effort.
No, definitely. And like I said last time, I still remember my first meeting with John. I was like, other cities have this, we need something like this. So answer your question, at TML, they share all the cities that have different softwares, and everybody's different, but the goal is still the same. So just really appreciate it. I think my only question is, when it comes to what impact has this app made when it comes to just the number of calls that y'all receive? I just want to make sure that we're telling the tale of how important this app is in making sure that we're efficient, but also taking making sure that staff is able to do things a little more efficiently and not be inundated with so many calls now that we're able to have another outlet for this. Just curious.
I can speak for my office in saying that direct calls, have probably dipped a little bit for now. I didn't expect them to drop off too much as word of the app is still growing. So we have noticed a bit of a dip, but that may also be due to the season. It's
Sure.
natural that code offices dip in traffic once the growing season ends. So there has been a dip, but I'm not sure if there's a true relationship yet.
Gotcha.
So I would probably like to watch that for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Some of the other departments may have experienced something, and so I would encourage you to ask them.
No.
But that's what I've seen in my office.
Sure, and just anecdotally, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen, because I'm sure in a year when more folks start, learning about it and whatnot, we'll get more of that. So anyways, I think that's all I had as far as my questions go. Thank you so much, Leo, for the presentation.
Councilmember Lynn.
No, I'm good.
The only question I had, Leo, is, again, thank you. I think the app is great, and it's kind of fun. I like the interactive map part of it, and that way I can kind of see as a council member what's going on in my area fairly easily without having to call and bug you guys. Do we have any way to get feedback in a formal way from staff to see how they feel like the app is performing and how it's aiding in their positions because I'd like to see those numbers as well. Just because it's, we have fun on it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes their work more productive. And so I'd like to see some of that, to see if there's some kind of formal way for them to give that feedback to us.
Sure,
to let
I
us
think
know that
that's
it's good.
totally doable. We have a list of all the staff, all the staff users. And so I'm sure that somebody, be it IT or me, if my help is needed, to come up with a kind of survey and then ask the staff that are using the app how they feel about certain things.
Yep.
And then bring that to you or send that to you through
That'd
the
be
city
great.
manager. So yeah, I think we can totally do that.
Yeah, I like to just make sure that we're being respectful of both sides of that coin, so.
I know they appreciate it. So.
You haven't spoken, so, get it in now.
All right. Well, I will.
We're moving
Leo,
on.
thank you for the presentation. I, like Councilwoman Williams, have used the tool and understand the interaction that comes with it. I know that we'll have more opportunities to improve, as you just alluded to, and I concur with Councilwoman Williams as well, to understand the positives and the negatives as those get addressed. And I would point this back to John, sitting in for Charles, obviously here at the table today, is to make sure that we understand this SLA difference and make sure that that's agreeable to
Okay.
administration. So, and I'm sure that it is, but I think we need to have a,
Well, and more importantly, if we're falling below your service expectations, we need that kind of real-time feedback too.
Correct.
We're kind of starting with how we're currently, because we had these same issues that came up before we had the app about how quickly we responded and how quickly we closed it. And as we're going through this, we're finding that we've got to bifurcate different categories because there's a lot of things
As you
that fall
should.
under other. But yeah, we're very proud of our results and our team's very competitive. And I know there's been some issues when we were looking at this data, and I think I shared with you all that there were some people that, like, gosh, I don't feel great about what we're showing. We didn't know how to close out a case in one instance and so forth. But yeah, if there's a situation where, can you please explain why your SLA is 5 days on this particular
Sure.
thing? We'd be happy to defend that. And we're constantly challenging ourselves to speed things up. How can we do this quicker?
and I think one of the points you made, Leo, thank you, John, for those comments. But I think one of the points you made earlier is when these requests are handed off to other applications, that we make sure that we provide linkages to that. That's probably an enhancement down the road, I understand that. But if there's some way to allow that resident to get that linkage or be directed to that, I think those are some feedback points. But it's really a useful tool, the opportunity to take a picture, place your location, et cetera, get it into the overall process stream. I'm very excited about the future of this, so thank you.
To piggyback off your point, I've requested that John, through Charles or whoever, provide a document that outlines all these SLAs in a memo/briefing that we can review, and if we feel there's any problems, we can come back and address them later. But if we're all copacetic with it, we'll, at least have that and know. So,
Makes sense.
Thank you.
okay. All right.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Leo.
you're welcome.
Next is A4, review tween recreational program offerings. Ms. Minter.
Good afternoon, Maria Minter, Recreation and Culture Manager. Pull up my presentation here.
I just missed out on Generation Z.
Everything else, I'm like, it's on.
Okay, I appreciate the opportunity today to share with you some information about our programs and some of the research that we've done. Youth and teen programs are my passion. It's why I got into this line of work. So, and I've had the opportunity to serve some of you in our programs. You've had families in the programs, or you've been in our programs. So it's a pleasure to be up here to talk to you about something that I'm so passionate about. I'm going to provide a little bit of information, and then I'm going to have Victoria, who's our new recreation supervisor come up and visit with you about some other ideas, some potential ideas that we might be able to implement. So to provide a little bit of background, we're talking about tweens, relatively 10 to 13 years old, and we included some information about technology. Gen Z is ages 9 to 25. Gen A is 0 to 9. I have 2 children in Gen Z and one in, well, I guess mine are all Gen Z now. I've got 19-year-old twins and an 11-year-old son, so I'm right there in the middle of this. Average age that a child receives a cell phone is just over 10 years. And that's their preferred method of communication. But don't call, you text. They don't want to answer the phone. And don't leave a voicemail especially. So 95% of this age group, they have access to cell phones, whether it's their own, it's a parent's, they have access. And of the 95%, 92% have daily usage and 24% have constant usage of their cell phones. And that has impacted our programming, especially in our teen room, just having open teen room time. The things that we used to provide, they can now get on their device. Some of the cities that we talked to also about their teen programs were Carrollton, Addison, Coppell, Louisville, and Southlake. And Victoria came from Grand Prairie, so she's going to be able to speak to some of that as well. Some of the previous programs and successes that we've had, we're going to go over that also, and some of the park amenities that kind of speak to the teen and tween population. Also, we welcome community feedback regarding our youth and teen programs. We want to hear from their parents. We want to hear from them directly. So some of the ways that we do that, we welcome community feedback. We evaluate our programs regularly. We talk to our instructors. We look at attendance. We look at our fee structures. We send out surveys. Also, and when we do get that feedback, when it's necessary, we make those changes. And for example, in talking about the frog pond, toddler swim time, no, that's not tweens. That's just an example of some steps that our department took. When we got that feedback from a parent group, we met with them, we heard them, and we made those changes. Same thing with the Kid Zone at the rec center. Once we reopened, we expanded the Kid Zone area. We heard there was a need to expand our ages. It was previously 6 months to 6 years. We expanded to through age 9, and then also we added Saturday hours as well. When we first opened in 2004, we had Saturday hours. They didn't do well, so we heard people. We stopped offering. We started doing some rentals. The rentals kind of fell off. The requests came back after the renovation for Saturday classes or for Saturday childcare especially during fitness classes. And so that's why we have that time from 7:45 to 10:35 to accommodate the 8 a.m. to 10:30 fitness classes on Saturday mornings. And it's been a huge success. We have regularly 9 to 10 kids in there Saturday morning. So it was obviously needed. We heard it, we responded, and it's been successful. Also, we send out surveys every 90 days to our active members at the Recreation Center through a system called Listen 360. It's a very, very short questionnaire. I think it's maybe 2 questions, and it gives them the opportunity to provide written feedback as well. So they can just give us a score, or they can add comments also. And so when we get the feedback, I review it. It goes to Mike, Rachel sees it, I see it, I respond. When we get written comments, I respond to all of those. Or if they give us a review that's changed from their last one, if it's gone down, I'll ask why. Hey, it looks like we've got some room for improvement. Can you tell us what your experiences have been? And out of the responses that we've received, written responses, we've had 1 request in regards to additional tween programs. A little over 1,100. And I did reach out to that member and said, hey, tell me what it is that you're looking for. What are you interested in? So I wanted to get that feedback from them also. So we are listening to our community. So here are some things that are offered in our department, well, citywide also. I included the library in here as well. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just kind of the genre of classes that we offer. So when you see art workshops, classes, camps, if you know Paloma, you know she offers 50 different types of programs. It's month-long classes, it's one-week camps, it's half-day workshops, so there's a variety. And in 2019, we offered fewer classes than what we're offering now. And again, this is citywide, so here at the rec center, historical park, aquatics, and library. And then also we partner with other departments, divisions in our department, and outside entities to offer programs. CFB-ISD is a partner of ours. We've worked with them on programs like Middle School Madness, when we used to do a before-school program at Vivian Field, a softball tournament. They let us use their facilities when we want to host some camps and programs. They'll let us come in and use during the summer some of their facilities. The Mansky Library as well offers some teen volunteer programs, and we've gone in and done some programs over there with them. The police department and the fire department have been huge partners when we offer our teen CSI, our teen police academy, and teen fire academy. We started those in 2007. They started to fall off. We did not offer those in 2019 and 2020, although we've already been talking to the fire department, and we're going to be offering our Teen Fire Academy. I don't know if you've heard that yet, Chief, but we are offering that again. We've already talked to Wendy. She's signed off on it.
Heard it now.
So we're really excited to be doing those things, and they've been great partners. Animal Adoption Center, we take our teen camp over there, and that's been a wonderful opportunity. That's probably the most popular activity that our teen camp gets to do. We go to the historical park too. They do beautification projects in our parks. They volunteer at special events. I know they were really helpful with July 3rd. They will move the chairs, do the rentals. They're our greeters. Branch Connection too, we've done some cooperative senior programs, cooking, where our teens go in and teach them how to use that technology we talked about earlier. And then also, again, assisting with special events. We do junior lifeguard programs. And then we worked with the B Project, the family place. They come into our teen program and talk about healthy relationships with partners, with teens, identifying emotional abuse and things like that. So we've been able to reach out with other organizations and have these great programs kind of reach all corners of our community. Also, CFB-ISD offers the after-school program for grades K through 5, so roughly ages 5 to 12, and that meets at all of the elementary schools in Carrollton Farmers Branch from 3 to 6. So what we've talked about, I met with our team, and Rachel and I talked too about some ideas that we think might be able to work. And so one thing that we came up with was Tweens at Twilight program. And we identified Tuesdays and Wednesdays because we looked at all of the programs that are currently offered, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays have the lowest amount of tween offerings. And so we picked those 2 nights to do something from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Recreation Center for ages 10 to 13. We would bring in 2 of our youth program staff members, or we would hire 1 contract instructor, and they're all vetted and approved, background check. We would offer activities such as arts and crafts, fitness, esports, community service projects, and then offer just supervised downtime too, just to socialize and connect with friends. That's what they want to be doing. They want to be on their phones, but we're going to offer them some alternate activities, but opportunities to socialize in a supervised environment. We would require pre-registration, or we would recommend that they pre-register. It would be free, however, there would be a $5 supply fee, and that's to cover some of our costs, but also to get buy-in. If there's no fees involved, then they're less likely to feel responsible to let you know if they're not coming. We would recommend a minimum of 10 participants, just because we are going to be investing some staff time and some of our resources. We want it to be worthwhile and a good use of funds. So we would recommend a minimum of 10 participants and no more than 25, just based on space. This is prime time at the Recreation Center. If you've been, even if you've just tried to find a parking spot, it's tough. It's crowded. So we just don't have tons of space, and so we want to make sure that we provide enough space for 25 kids. It's fun. We can go into the gym, and we're not overcrowded. And I am now going to turn it over to Victoria. Just a couple other things I want to mention as she's coming up. The Manskys Library has that great maker space, and that's a good space there too that they've utilized. They offer some e-gaming. They have a lot of great programming going on over there too for teens, tweens. They have a volunteer program. And then also we've got the skate park next to the recreation center, which is a great amenity. It's really popular. Skateboarders, kids on rollerblades, scooters. And then also the Montgomery field across the street. We're going to be building some soccer goals in-house. And so we'll have that open space. We can program it. It's also just right in the heart of Farmers Branch. It's walkable. They can get there and use that too. So we've got a lot of options here. And I am going to turn it over to Victoria, our fresh set of eyes from Grand Prairie. So,
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Victoria. Like Maria said, I came from Grand Prairie. I worked there for 5.5 years, started as part-time and worked myself up to a youth programs coordinator. I have a passion for youth, for teens, so I'm happy to be here. I just want to speak a little bit on my experience being in Grand Prairie with teens and tweens. Whenever I was at the Epic, do y'all know where the Epic is? What the Epic is? Okay. So whenever I was at the Epic, we had different areas within the building for this demographic. Downstairs, we had a game room for kids ages 6 to 14 prior to COVID. Very popular. That room was busy all the time whenever it was open. It was open from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Kids loved being in there, and having strong staff in there really made the difference as well. They made connections with the kids, but it was really open play. There wasn't really any program structure within the rooms, but they loved it. They were respectful with the equipment in there. And then upstairs, we had an actual teen room called Zone 13-17 for kids ages 13 to 17. And it was the same idea as downstairs. Teens were able to go up there prior to COVID. The teens loved it. They connected with my staff very well, and it was just a place where they felt safe. They were able to socialize. They were able to play the games with each other, and parents felt safe with their teens being in a supervised environment as well. But like downstairs, it wasn't necessarily programmed. It was just supervised, open play, because those teens also love to use the fitness equipment in the fitness area within the facility. Some of the programs that we did have were more so events. They loved the e-gaming tournament that we had. We had 2 Fortnite tournaments and 1 Super Smash Mario Brother tournament, and those turned out really well. We did have some challenges with the Wi-Fi, but moving forward, we decided to use the discs, and that definitely was helpful in that area. Other things that they really enjoyed, something that they were bringing on after COVID once we started to open the facility more, something called Gaga Pit. Do any of y'all know what that is? It's structured play. It's I think it's a hexagon or an octagon, and it's fenced in, and there's just a ball inside. And your part-time staff is key. You need someone who's going to initiate the game and the play. They just go in there, and it's kind of like wall ball, dodgeball type thing in there, but the teens loved it. It was a supervised thing that they looked forward to once a week. They did that. That was very successful. Whenever I was at Dalworth Recreation Center, which is a different rec center in Grand Prairie, they had a Defy program for tweens with that 10 to 13 age. And it was a mentorship leadership program that partnered with the Naval Base, and they met quarterly with the Naval Base. But in order to supplement that, we met once a month with those kids and did outreach programming with them. So they met at least once a month together. And we also had a teen summer camp. And before I left and came over here, we were working on doing sports watch parties for the kids upstairs in our Zone 13-17. So we had one wall with a really big TV that we were going to broadcast an NBA game. And on the other wall, we had lined up with different PS4s and PS5s, Xbox Ones. They could play the game that was in association with the game that they were watching. So they had multiple things to do, and the pizza, drinks, refreshments, something for them to come and enjoy, socialize, and watch a game that they would enjoy. But that's the experience that I've had with that age demographic there. Really excited to work with Jessica, Emmanuel, Adriana, and Maria to get some other offerings that our community will enjoy. So do you have any questions?
Go ahead.
Did you have something to say first?
No, I was going to start with y'all too, because y'all both
Oh, yes.
were very adamant about it last meeting.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for your time and putting all this together. As you could tell, we are very passionate about this. Me being one that used to use the programming myself a long time ago, things have changed. We're older now. But one of the things that, and I love where your mind is at, and I love your background because I think it speaks to what's worked in other areas. And you know, we even at our hospital, we do a hackathon for e-gaming with middle schoolers, and they love it, right? And so I love that we're being innovative and thinking outside the box. But I would like for us to take a step back, because one of the things that I think we haven't really tackled is really getting the voice of the tweens. And so one thing that I know, again, in my previous role, we were trying to do programming for an aquatic center we were trying to build. We actually went to the junior high. Me and my staff member were outside the cafeteria, and we were taking surveys from kids and offering incentives for them to complete it. And in talking to our principal at Field, he is all for doing something like that, because I think we need to really, I don't want us to tell the kids what they think they need. I want the kids to tell us, because one of the biggest things that I think we also need to capture from this survey is what are the barriers? Because I know that, for example, I live next to the rec center, but I used to go to Vivian Field. I would have to walk home. So I would go to the rec center, the old rec center, where they had the lobby and where in the snack machines. That's what we would hang out, because we didn't want a program. We didn't want to participate in a program. We just wanted a safe space, because a lot of these kids are trying to. Sometimes, you know, home is negativity, and so they just want a safe space to be. But that's where I had to walk that direction. But one of the biggest things we have is it's a long walk from Field to the rec center. So, you know, asking questions like, do you utilize the rec center? If you don't, why not? Is it transportation? Is it access? Is it just not knowing what's there? Is it cost? Because I think one of the biggest deterrents that we heard, again, a couple of years ago when I was working on something similar is, you know, parents, if a kid asks a parent, I need $10 for this, they're gonna ask why, where are you gonna go, what are you gonna do? And especially in some of our demographics, they're very sheltered. And so we need to also have that same conversation with the parents of these kids to say, what, you know, if you had a free program, would you sign up your kid? Because if the parent signs them up and they know about this, then the kid would have to go. Obviously, we don't wanna make them do something they don't wanna do, but at the same time, it's for the child's safety. Exactly. And so I think that I love the proposals in and of themselves, and I'm glad to see we're finally getting soccer goals at Montgomery. But I do think we need to take a step back and do our due diligence, because the last thing I want for us is for you all to do so much work on something that we feel like is going to work and then it not be successful. I want us to make sure that we put in our resources where we know that the kids are actually going to use it. And let's say, you know, we have 200 kids and they say, we don't want programs, we don't want this, but it's because they need something closer. Then that's where I think we need to think outside the box, maybe talk to a YMCA and do a public-private partnership to do something next to Squire, where it's a place where they can just walk to. Or maybe we use the facility next to the Rose Garden, one of our old buildings, right? Something that's closer. But I do want to get a sense of what are the barriers, why aren't they participating? Because when I, you know, living in this area, I drive by all the time and I see them playing sports at the baseball field. They don't have access to the soccer field, otherwise I think they'd be using it too. They walk over to the picnic tables and they're just hanging out. Obviously, when it's cold and it's rainy, my question is, where do they go? Like, what do they do? And so, especially with some of the things that have happened recently at Vivian Field, I think this is the perfect time to have that conversation with parents, because they want to keep their kids safe. And I think you'll get way more buy-in right now based on what's happened over the last couple of months in some of the situations at Field. And I know Principal Hunter is all in. He's like, whatever you need to do, I will do it. Let's make it happen. So anyways, I'll stop there because I know Tracy has a lot more to add. But but I know we even talked about it, you know, over the weekend.
Yes.
And so but I do want to make sure that from my end, you know, I appreciate everything y'all are doing, and I think y'all are doing a fantastic job. I just would hate for us to miss out on this particular demographic. Not because you're not doing your due diligence. I think it's just maybe we just need to think outside the box and find a way to get the information so we can make the right decision moving forward. And maybe the rec center isn't the right place, but let's find the right place. So anyways.
And I think we're on the same page, In fact, Jessica's already reached out to Principal Hunter, and we have a pending meeting, like, put a pin in this, we're gonna meet with you, but we wanted to see what the outcome of this meeting was, so we're gonna visit with him, and so that's, I'm glad you brought that, because that's a great point, yes, thank you.
Thank you all so much. And again, Crystal pretty much hit I mean, her and I have been talking about it in depth for weeks now. And I agree with her. As parents and as adults, we have a really bad tendency of telling our kids what it is that they want. You really do want to eat that broccoli, and you really do want to eat that chicken, and no, you really don't want to eat that chocolate. Without those kids buying into that, it's never going to work. When that is the hardest demographic, I think, in the entire world. I don't think there's anything more challenging than 8 to 14, 40-year-olds, like
21.
maybe 21.
They know better than us, but they don't know what they want.
But they don't know what they want, and it's hard to get constructive feedback from them. It's hard to get information from them. But I will tell you this, just from my personal experience. Those kids, and especially following the pandemic and following all of our teaching from home and all of that, kids are shying real far away from structured play. And being in a situation where they've been at school all day long and everything is so structured right now, them going into another program at a facility where, again, they are being told real strictly what needs to be done. So I love your ideas about more free play, just in a safe, supervised environment. They just need a space to be in. The thing is, they have the best entertainment that they could possibly want in their hands. And so, if I love the idea of us having that free play, and then, but look, if that got boring, or here's some other offerings that you have. Here's some opportunities to put the screen away for a second and do something else. After talking to Crystal, that's the part that I don't know. Is the rec center the best place for it? Do we need to assure there's some kind of space in the rec center that those kids can hang out with? Because I do see them all the time at that skate park. And it's usually pretty crowded. And, I see a lot of those kids upstairs. They're beginning to want to, get involved in those activities. But part of it too is they just wanted someplace to mess around with their friends. Right. I think we're all on the same page. I'm always impressed with Farmers Branch. When we moved in, when my son was 2, and started looking into the programming available at the library, especially, and then the Summer Funshine and the holiday program as well. I mean, those are great programs, and to talk to families who are now 3 generations into Summer Funshine and all of that, that's amazing. And so I just want us to be sure that we're assuring, continued space at the rec center and at all of our facilities for that group as well, because I think I definitely think they're a demographic of need, especially right now. So thank y'all.
Yes.
Thank y'all very much.
Yeah.
I know y'all are so devoted, and so I know that y'all are y'all always have them in mind and that group in mind, and so I'm really excited to have an on board.
Yes.
And I'll just add, I think one thing too, and as some of my colleagues know, I have a big passion around mental health. Working at a children's hospital from a mental health perspective, that social interaction has been something so lacking, especially during COVID. And it's so necessary for these kids to be able to flourish both academically, but even health-wise. And so I think that's why we're seeing more kids wanting that interaction, because now that they're even back in school, it's structured. They're not able to see their friends as much, especially, again, coming from a culture where a lot of times it was very taboo to hang out with anybody outside of your home, it becomes very difficult. But a social interaction is so important for these kids. And so that's why I'm loving the sports tournaments and some of those things where it's active play. Because another thing we're seeing a lot too is an increase in obesity in some of these kids and things like that. But one last note I wanted to make is in talking with some of our trustees, one of them specifically commented about the need for some type of option whenever kids are off school. We offer amazing programming during the summer, holiday craze, but there are a lot of these off days where it's just a random Monday and Friday where these kids a lot of times are staying home by themselves because parents can't afford for childcare on these random days. And so I think maybe working with our school district to figure out what those days are, and then those days offering and working with our school to say, hey, on these days, if you want to do an all morning tournament, we'll be at Montgomery and doing a soccer tournament for you guys, and we'll provide an incentive or something.
And you guys are so great about events and doing events with the entire Parks and Rec department. I mean, that is like y'all's place of shining. And so, just building that collaboration between our school districts and our city government communities, and realizing that we are, we wear two different hats, but we're still part of that same team, and that may help, because sometimes we just forget, what the left hand is doing because the right hand is doing this over here. And so, just reaching out and making sure that we're working together with our ISD, I think would be
And
great.
We're looking forward to talking with him, and to speak to your point, this is a tough age group. We've done some of the when they're out of school, the half-day tournaments, the gaming and things like that. So I think, and I've talked, those other cities we talked to, they're dealing with the same thing. We're all trying to figure out how to
Figure it
program
out.
for these kids, because they don't come. And so
Right.
we'll go visit with the principal and talk to the students and find out, okay, what's gonna make you show
Get
up?
there.
Because when we've tried revamping our programs, renovating the team room, our numbers still fell off, so just kind of going back and figuring out, okay, you weren't responding to what we were offering, so what will you respond to? Yeah,
How do we get there?
yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you, appreciate that.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Lynn, Merritt, Driscoll, anything?
Yes.
Well, thank you guys again for the presentation, and I don't have much to add beyond what the councilwomen have already pointed out, but I will add to Cristal's point. The Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, just released a mental health advisory, youth advisory for youth health, and so it just within, I believe it's today or yesterday.
I think it's just right, yeah.
So it is topic du jour, if you will, on how important this COVID period has been, and we're reacting now to something we've never seen in our generations with youth at this point. So I do think it's imperative, and you guys have done a fantastic job of having the right connections of leaders in those spaces that the kids can gravitate. And Victoria, welcome to the group.
Yeah.
Well, thank
We've
you.
already had, but there are others on the staff, and Maria, my kids have
Right.
gone through the program,
Yes.
and they still think highly of you. And so that is an important HR perspective of having the right people in these roles to gravitate, to allow the kids to gravitate, and allow those individuals holding those roles to advance in their career as well. So I think there's a balance that we can still take from a council perspective, city management, HR, to incentivize that as well. So
I appreciate that. And Hannah and Olivia made it easy, they were good girls,
yes.
yes.
One of the neat things kind of following on that is a lot of the path that we've seen at the recreation center were kids that started at Summer Funshine, and then they came back as teen leaders and moved up. Well, I think we have one of those sitting in our audience with us today.
Yes, Jessica, she started she was in our programs as a child and pretended to be a leader and walked around with a clipboard.
So when you were gonna hire a thing, so.
We knew back then. Yeah, so I think that shows that overall our staff is doing something right, because
For
And,
sure.
and when we ask them, well, why do you want to work here? They say, well, you guys did a lot for me and I want to give back. And so, and like, to speak to your point, we have kids who now have their kids in the program. And I remember, so I feel like an honorary grandparent because like now my kids have their kids. So it's been a really, a great progression. And I'm so thankful for the department and the city overall. And if you read in the staff report, we spearheaded this, we were groundbreaking. And so, and to be able to do that, and that's something I always brag about when we do staff training, is we paved the way for this. And so when you look at our standards of care, we did that, we changed the legislation. So
Yeah.
I think that speaks to our department, the city overall, and how supportive we are of the community and our families and want to take care of them. Yeah.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, I basically would concur with all the previous statements from my fellow council members. Just want to thank you for the job, not just in the presentation, but the job you always do. And I think the rec center and all the activities that we've got throughout the city for different demographic groups, but particularly the children, the school-age kids, is one of the best amenities that the city offers. And ever since I've lived here, and even before, when I had family here, but I didn't live here, I heard about all the good things of these programs and activities and the amenities and opportunities, and just keep up the good work. And I had a couple of questions. One, you mentioned you have this, every 90 days you send out a 360 like online survey or questionnaire. How long have you been doing that?
We started doing that in July of 2019. So as long as we have an email on the account, they will get an email from us, or from Listen 360.
Right, okay. So it's July 2019. Okay. Yeah, and I also want to just echo, I think, a point by Mr. Merritt. I know in this teen group, we also have a lot of, as has been discussed, a lot of issues with what we've gone through in almost the last 2 years. And there's a lot of mental health issues, insecurity, social issues, psychological issues. And I know that it's extremely sad, for our whole society that teen suicides have just been skyrocketing. And so these are really critical programs, and hopefully we'll have the various variants of the pandemic more in the rearview mirror very soon.
One of these days.
But these are very noteworthy programs. And I'd just like to say also, welcome to you, Victoria.
Thank you.
And I think you were kind of spearheading the operation at Feliz Navidad Friday
Yes.
night, I think so. But
Yes.
Maria, I saw you there also.
I
But
was there as
it
a
was a
patron.
huge success.
Yes.
And I'm a dog lover, a dog person. And I have so many people that reached out to me, oh my gosh, I didn't know about it, I wish I'd known. And I talked to people, met people there from other surrounding cities who love the dog park. But that was really a fantastic just an event. And
Thank
it
you.
was
Great
fun
job.
for everybody, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, they did a great job. Record turnout for our dog park event.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Councilmember Len.
I'll be brief. So as I read this, there were a couple things that stood out in my mind, and that was obviously the comment about smartphones and gaming apps becoming more popular, and those are changing the way kids engage overall. Attendance at some of your programs waned, and you recognize that. And then that just overall lack of enrollment caused us to have to think in a different way. So I do think as we look at this, it's more important to ask, what can we do, or what would you like, what do you want, versus dictating. And I was taking the approach more of the 13 to 17-year-old, because 17, they may be working or whatever. Some of them are still a little young, socially young, whatnot. But you also cited in here partner with other entities, and those could be outside entities from the city also. There may be an opportunity in the not-too-distant future to do just that with something that will engage these kids now in the world that they live in, which is the gaming apps.
Yes,
and
yeah,
so on.
that's a good point.
So that is being worked on. I don't know if anybody else knows about that, but that's being worked on. And so asking the questions more than just trying to give the answer.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I
Everything
appreciate-
else?
Yes, I think we're on the same page when we go meet with the principal at Vivian Field and then can find the best way to get the feedback from the students there. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, any way we can help with that, Maria, we're here as a resource. So, you know, if that means sitting at a table, I'll just sit at a table.
We might call you
I
and
know.
we'll get
I know.
Loretta
I
out
don't
there
mind.
too.
Yes,
and yeah,
yes.
so-
So,
And
we don't
Amy,
mind.
and Amy made a great point when we were talking too. We have a youth commission
Yes.
that can do
Yeah.
surveys in their own schools.
Yes.
And can maybe even help spearhead, because a lot of times they'll answer to their own peers more than they will
Easier.
to these
Right.
adults.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
That's a
good.
great
That's a good
suggestion, yeah,
point.
thank you, yes. I am not as cool as I think I am. Thank you.
Awesome. Maria, Victoria,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Next is A5, discuss the city council strategic planning topics. As you know, Wednesday, January 26th, we're going to hold our strategic planning session at the fire station number 2. This plan is, you know, pretty much just sets the direction, not only for multiple projects and initiatives, but it is the framework for developing next year's budget. And so I know staff has kept a diligent list of things council members and myself have brought up that they would like to discuss, that some of them have yet to make it to this table, but maybe the strategic planning session is the best opportunity to do so. So is we're looking to build the framework for the conversation around our strategic planning session. Wanted to go through this list that we have preliminarily. Maybe some other topics that we want to bring up is we look to bring forward the agenda and the discussion points on January 26th. And so one of the things that is I look through this that I'm kind of seeing, it seems to me that items 1, complete streets, 6, comprehensive plan and strategy, and walkability could potentially all go together, is a much broader conversation to say we can fit these 3 into a conversation that encompass all of them as we look to point that direction with those items so that they're just not individual things, because they do tie in to the larger and bigger plan that is Farmers Branch. As it relates to items 3 and 4, new urbanism and ADUs, I know you guys have found an individual that could lead the discussion on that, but it could get rather lengthy.
On which? There's
New
2 parts.
urbanism and accessory dwelling units, but one of the things that I want to maybe recommend is, as it relates to new urbanism and accessory dwelling units, do we want that to be an independent study session meeting and maybe bring in P and Z with it as well to have a much larger conversation? But the issue with that is I think those also roll into the fold of 1, 2, and 6. And so I would like to schedule that sooner, maybe the week in between the council meeting, the first council meeting and the second council meeting. So we might have a busy January.
I think that's
I just want to get it in because it's been on the books for a while.
yeah.
I know we probably need to meet with P and Z again anyways, because it's been quite some time since we last met with them. And maybe there's an opportunity to do a joint meeting sometime before we meet on the 26th, so that if there are some higher level points, we can bring that into that discussion that day and kind of knock those out. And so that's just a high level recommendation from me. Just want to see what everyone's potential availability of that is.
So that's something I brought up to John whenever we had our one-on-one, to do a joint meeting with P and Z, because I think they would appreciate all of that intel as well, especially with our newer members. I will say though, I will be out that week, so I won't be able to participate. And would probably have to do virtual, the meeting of the 18th, because I will be out of town. So I wouldn't be available for
You want
that.
to double down on virtual?
Good, but it's my vacation, so I really would not want to spend 5 hours of a
It's a
day
commitment.
in Hawaii. No.
It's even time zone difference.
No, it's a time zone difference too.
I mean, we get it. Charles couldn't zoom in for this either, so it's a tough spot to zoom from.
It is. I blame it on my
Weather over
husband.
there right now,
I blame it
so-
on my husband. He has marine stuff, so no. But I'd be happy to do it. I just don't. That would that timing just doesn't work. So, and I would like to be a part of that conversation. But if we do it after our meeting in January,
I mean, that's kind of the,
That's part of this whole strategic
Yeah.
plan.
I think it-
comprehensive
But
plan.
I think that that's so, but I think both of those items are gonna be so time consuming. I mean, you're looking at two items eating up the bulk of our,
I mean, you could do a full day on all of that.
On the 12th, you're going to have a board chair luncheon. You're already going to be here that day. It works.
That's the chair, the board chair luncheon on the 12th.
On the upside, you could get to weigh in on the 26th.
I think it does make sense, though, if we could have the meeting with P and Z for many reasons, but particularly before we have the strategic objective retreat.
do we have a meeting, we have a meeting on the
11th,
11th, well,
25th.
our count, and then the strategic planning meeting is on
The 26th.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sharika, what's
So
the
it's the
P&Z
4th and the
schedule for
18th?
January?
10th
Yeah, that's-
and
10th and 24th? Since we're talking about having a joint meeting with another group, we know they're available generally on the 10th and the 24th, which are both before the 26th. I don't know if we can get that specialist to speak on new urbanism, but we can certainly try to find someone, if not that. that
What days
particular
of the
person.
week are
Those are both Mondays.
yeah, those are their regular meetings, and I can find out. Give you the date.
And it's just gonna be some
Are
time.
Mondays an option for council?
They're generally kind of problematic
Okay.
Mondays for me,
Okay.
just, but it all depends. But those are usually kind of busy days and a lot of unanticipated things happens over the weekend, so.
When do you get back?
So I'm out the 12th through the 19th. Yeah. I'm talking.
One other thought, there's not a fuse lit on new urbanism, and that, we don't have to have that before the retreat. It's a pretty broad topic, complete streets is kind
The
of
fuse
same.
is lit for me because Michael has been asking for it for
Correct.
about 8 months. So I'm tired of seeing it on there and would like to discuss it sooner rather than later.
Second that idea, Mayor. And I think also it'd be important for us as a group, because we have, I mean, I'm fairly new, and we have two other newer members on this group, but also we've got a lot of new people on P and Z. And if, we're to kind of cooperate and be part of the same team, pulling in the same direction, I think it'd be very useful. And a lot of those folks have very different backgrounds and experiences. Some are very knowledgeable on some of these topics, and others just like, whoa, what's that? So I think it's really important we all kind of get together
Does anyone,
on some of these topics.
Yeah, and I don't think we're saying we don't want to. I just think we're trying to figure out the right date.
Right, I
Anyone-
agree,
does
but-
anyone have an issue? I'm just gonna throw this out there. Saturday, the 22nd, to spend a morning,
Saturday, what day
the 22nd,
of December?
January.
January, rather, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, not December.
I could do that, I'm honest.
I mean,
It's a Saturday.
we've talked about doing P and Z retreats on the weekend and other stuff, and this
Kind of
all,
works out nice. Then we're not rearranging work schedules and.
Yes.
Probably
schedules,
for
that's-
for all of us, and there's even more on P and Z, probably a Saturday might be the best option. And we're all just gonna have to make a sacrifice if we're gonna all get together.
I'm not gonna sacrifice white.
Well, I didn't say that, but I
I'm
mean.
just kidding. I'm just
you know,
messing. I'm just
Well,
messing.
Saturday
That's
may
after
be
you-
better
that's
than a
after you get
weekday
back and
than a
readjust
business
to-
day.
No, it's
Time.
fine. I think Saturdays work better. That way, because rearranging work is hard.
I mean, I have things on Saturdays too, but
we all do.
People out to see
Maybe let's just get it over with.
we need to make sure that.
Well, I mean,
Oh, P&Z, yeah.
21st.
P and Z, we get a lot. I mean, like I said, I'm thinking this is a Saturday to knock out a lot of those. And then we can focus on other items at the strategic session and have a high level
And now we have it-
reconvening of what we all talked about that Saturday.
Yep, I agree. That way it makes strategic a little more productive.
I was thinking Saturday might be better too, so.
See if
Can you-
the urbanism people
yeah,
can.
highlight the topics that you wanted covered at the joint retreat?
I will.
New urbanism,
Items 1, 2, 3, 6, 4.
4 through.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 6?
Yep.
Am I saving it or are we?
It's for the strategic retreat.
Put a save.
Okay.
On the-
Amy's gonna find out if P and Z can make it work.
On the comprehensive plan and strategy, we haven't quite gone out for the RFP. We could certainly talk about.
I think
what
it's
would
the
go into
high,
that.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the high level. I assume us doing that rolls into the budget and allocating dollars to get that done. Or we already allocated.
It's in the budget.
Oh, perfect.
Those
Okay.
are already allocated, right?
Even better.
How close are we to?
The RFP,
You're correct.
we are planning to send it out next week, give it a month timeline.
Okay.
Then we'll bring back the consultant once we have done the interviews to council. So, John, just for clarification, on January 22nd, the topics are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Correct.
Okay.
Would you prefer to hold off on sending the RFP out until we've had this discussion, or we can just go over what's in the RFP and who we've sent it to?
Are we gonna have all the responses back
We
by
will
then?
not.
When are we anticipating responses coming back?
You know,
So if we give typically a month, so it would be like mid-January when we will.
Oh, so
get
the
it.
responses would be back by then.
you think we'll have them back by the 22nd? You want to make that the deadline?
With the
Because we need to have
holidays.
them back by.
For the day before the deadline?
Like the 21st?
Christmas holidays.
Yeah,
I
holidays is gonna be
suspect
tough.
that would not take place.
Do you want to see all the responses then?
I mean, this is just someone doing the work, right? But the RFP is gonna be inclusive of what we want done.
But you can modify.
We can modify. Can we narrow and modify?
Sure, sure. The whole point is to get the invitation out, see who's interested, see what the costs are, and then we can pick who you want to use and.
And then modify with the best and final?
Yes,
Okay,
it's professional, so there's no
Yeah.
competitive bidding.
Right.
okay.
Pick who you want.
All right.
We'll make the deadline prior to that date then, so we'll know. Who we have. Okay.
Are we looking at an all-day event? in the-
No, I'm looking like half-day.
Okay.
It's 22nd, right?
Huh?
For the
Yeah.
22nd, yeah. Because our,
Like people to keep some of their weekend, you know?
Just asking. So, did we say second half of the day or first half?
I
What
was
do we-
thinking first half.
Okay.
Get some breakfast, some coffee, get going, and then let people get on their way.
Yep.
I think we need at least a half a
I'm
day.
letting you
Down a
Yes.
half.
for you.
Yeah.
Be a half a day to really be
Yeah, to be able to
productive.
get through all of it.
Yeah, to be worthwhile.
Some of the other items, unless we want to make sustainability its own kind of overall topic on the 26th, I feel like 8 and 9 go together because it's a very capital-intensive program to roll
Right.
out smart meters.
Right.
Correct.
But if we want to talk about sustainability in a broader detail, do we keep smart meters as part of that larger discussion? And maybe it's after or before capital improvements? I'm just thinking is a way
Aren't
to
they
structure.
delivering sustainability planning?
There's a plan that's coming before the strategic planning session.
Right.
We will hear that
It's already-
first meeting in January,
That was
second,
fourth, right?
first or second meeting? Second,
Probably the second.
18th. So we'll get it the week before.
Okay.
Okay.
maybe a good idea to be able to like take that and digest it a little more and set some time aside in case we need it in conjunction with this. I don't think we'll need it much,
Right.
but it may be a good idea to leave it open to see
we'll-
if we have any.
We'll talk about adding a sustainability section as it relates to that plan and those meters. I think capital can be by itself. But after sustainability.
Yeah.
Okay. Performance metrics. I know you've been wanting to
You
to
bet.
talk about that.
All fun.
We could kind of roll that into our opening as we talk about our, our priorities from last year and what's carrying over.
Correct.
And talk about how that rolls in. So,
I think it all leads into not only just performance, but projections on what we haven't accomplished, what we need to continue to work on, and what we've, have now packaged and kind of put to rest. So all of that needs to be told, and that story needs to be communicated not only to this group, but to the residents as well. And I think we need to work on, that's where the focus of this performance metric has been, is getting that message out to the residents and making sure they are attuned to the good work that is going on, and the restructuring, if you will, or the reorientation of things when they're not going well, that we are taking advantage of that and fixing that. We need to tell a really good story. Numbers by themselves won't do it, and we know that, so we have to put a better wrapper around that. So that's the focus.
all right. The last one that's on here before we bring up other topics is the homeless initiatives. And I know this side of the table specifically has all brought it up at some point. We do have the plan or the study that is being conducted by Meadows. What is the
That's what I
timeline?
was gonna say, are we gonna have that by then?
I don't think so, Chief.
I thought that was
Meadows
projected
study,
in
we have
spring.
That was a longer-term
I did too.
project.
Meadows study.
It was 8 months, the last
months.
one I read, it was gonna take about 8 months for it to fully come to fruition.
Maybe 4 months in?
When did it start?
3 months in?
Roughly.
No, we didn't pull the trigger until what,
We didn't get the guidance until
that November.
November, so we're 2 months in. Okay. So what do y'all want to do? Terry, I'll let you go first here.
Well, I don't know what it is that you want to discuss or what your thoughts are in regards to the homeless initiative. If it's just cleaning up the 635 corridor, or if there's some other issue within our city.
I mean, those things are conversations with external partners because
Yes.
we don't control that corridor, as you know.
But I got the call on it yesterday.
But my thoughts as it relates to the homeless initiative is conversation that came from this table a few months ago, which is, let's get the study. And then once that study comes, do we form a task force with community members and other partners to take a look at that and how we want to attack it in conjunction with the partnership we plan on forming with the 4 other cities, and potentially DART.
So it may be premature to have that on
Yes.
this
Right.
list.
Yeah, other than just having side conversations with our external groups that are along our corridors to maybe have different conversations in the interim. And so I think moving that off of
I
the
agree.
strategic planning session is, we'll do it separately, wait for the Meadows report to come back, and then go from there. I'm gonna go around the table. If there's other topics that you wanna potentially bring up, let's discuss them so that I can take those ideas as I look to formulate the agenda that will come out in a few weeks. I'll start with you, Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes. As you stated, and I appreciate it, I have been, since I got on council, looking to have discussion, kind of education, whatever, on new urbanism. And so I had assumed we would have had that in the past. But one I would like to add to the agenda, and I know we've got a full agenda, is the idea of smart cities, which is kind of technology and how that affects everything in the city. I mean, everything. And I don't want to make a big talk about it, but I think it's a very worthy topic. And technology affects everything we do in our lives and everything in the operation of the city, not just how we communicate and how we communicate with the residents. But I think it's timely, and particularly also with all the social, business, economic changes we've all been going through the last 2 years with the pandemic. And again, we'll be going through the budget process soon and how and where we invest our dollars. So I'd like to add that to the agenda, smart cities.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Merritt.
I don't have anything at this time. I think we've got a lot to unpack. I would ask that as we go forward in putting together what will now be a somewhat skinnier list because we're moving things. I think we need to make a very good parking lot or secondary list of these are the things that we're also going to talk about later. So I think we need to communicate
We'll
that.
pass that out with the actual agenda.
Correct.
And what that looks like.
I think if we can get to that point, we can skinny this list down, but recognize there's going to be 3 or 4 sizable initiatives that will have their own due time coming forward, and we communicate that.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lynn.
So one of the items for the later list, I would like to have another discussion about on-street parking.
Okay. So what it sounds like is we're knocking out A5 and A6
Yes,
at this time.
yes.
So,
That'd be great.
Councilmember Williams.
I think we've got a full agenda, and so I think we've got some really fun, exciting things to discuss already. I don't think we need to add anything else at this point.
Cool. Councilmember Ratana.
I do have a few things. I'll defer to you, Mayor, on whether the strategic planning meeting is or our retreat is the best place, or if it's something
Or
that
it's a future
a
item.
future agenda item. But what I had down was, I had digital equity and also smart cities. I know I brought it up before, especially with what's been going on with COVID. I would just like to take a deeper dive into where the needs are, and explore just innovative opportunities. And I know you've done it in the past, and it's a passion for you as well. And the next one is kind of piggybacking probably a little bit off of you, Councilmember Merritt. So taking a deeper dive, and I look to Sherelle on this, on budget, because I would just be interested to see kind of where we were on some of the buckets pre-COVID and what our projections are moving forward. And I'll give the example of the hotel motel tax, because we had some projects like the barn, for example, that were going to be paid for through that. So I want to kind of be able to talk to our constituents and let them know it's still on our list. To your point, there's just some work to do from a budgetary perspective and to have projections on where we are. So that may be piggybacking off of what you were saying. So that may be something we could add. And then, sorry.
In terms of that item, I have some stats and some figures that I can maybe fold into my presentation this evening.
Yeah.
And give you some idea
Perfect.
of where we stand from a
Awesome.
hotel motel.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could modify your presentation.
I had given John a heads up. I was like, I may have this, but no, I think just also getting your intel, Sherelle, on like, what are some of those buckets that that you feel are, and then based on pre-COVID and in the next like couple of years, where we will be and what our opportunity could be. So that way we don't wait until that happens, and we could have a better sense of, from a strategy perspective, what we could do. And then the last one was, so this is a conversation, and this piggybacks off a little bit of what Councilmember Lynn said, because it's something that is an issue in different parts of our district, and it kind of goes along with our housing project, is related to, and this may be something that is separate, but looking at potentially special districts within our city that were able to solve the problem when it comes to just the fact that a lot of our streets are inundated with vehicles and it's become very unsafe. And a lot of it has to do with our housing, just because our housing, our older homes have one-car garages, but they're multi-generational houses. And so potentially exploring special districts. I know other cities have these special districts where I know we just did a complete code overhaul, but just exploring innovative ways to maybe in certain districts we're able to use and really speak to what we're trying to do with sustainability and allow for like semi-permeable pavement on driveways, so that way more cars can fit and we can kind of make space in our streets, just because it's becoming very, very dangerous. And in looking at road humps, for example, it's a safety issue when it comes to fire. And so we just need to find a solution, and we need to really think outside the box to try to find that, because with our housing program, it's not going to happen overnight. And so it's going to take years before we can turn over some of this area. But in the interim, we need to find a solution where individuals can actually walk through their sidewalks and not have to worry about vehicles. And this is not just in my district, there are these little communities all over our city of older homes.
Right.
And so anyways, like I said, I don't know if this meeting is best, because I think we're gonna need to do our due diligence. And I know Leo's already been helping me with this, to do some research and figure out what we're able to do. And maybe it's taking the time to get that intel before we move forward, but anyways, but I'll digress, and, but I know that's something that has been a huge issue in my district, but I know it's an issue in a lot of other areas of our city. So I'll defer to you, Mayor, on where you think we should put those items.
Okay, cool. Does anyone else have anything for future agenda items?
No, I'll just piggyback, if I may, on Cristal's point that, parking on street is an issue. We hear it quite a bit. And the overlays of walkability and safety and allowing police and fire to do their work, super important. So I'd be all supportive of that effort.
You asked for future agenda items. We're still on A5, correct?
I said in the middle, we're just kind of combining
Oh,
them because
okay.
we're parking
Sorry.
some stuff in the future.
I got A6 items.
Just go for them now.
All right. Under A6, I'd like to suggest that we consider having a naming contest for the new Signature Park. I know you had a placeholder pick, but allowing residents to be involved with the selection of that. That's number one. Number two, in January, I would like to present a proposed ordinance or an ordinance to be considered for boats, campers, and RVs, and have a discussion at study session, or we're probably start a study session, have that discussion.
Okay.
But we're ready to move. Third item, where we have the blinking lights at crosswalks, there's one on, right here in front of Firehouse Theater. There's also one at Rosser and Valley View that nobody,
So there's also one at Rod.
yes.
Josie.
So there's several,
Yeah.
but I'm specifically speaking about Valley View and Rosser. We have yellow lenses there on those lights. Could that be changed to red?
No, we cannot use red.
Why?
It's just, technically,
Just
red
for the
is something
intersections.
more official for police and everything else. And it signifies a stop, and it's not a stop.
Okay,
It is a caution, and they are caution elements, not a stopping element.
okay, so if you go south on Marsh Lane, almost at North Haven, the city of Dallas, along their trail system, put in demand
That may be more.
crossing
of a-
lights.
We'll have a discussion about that.
Okay,
they-
let's have a
Here's
discussion.
not the
Okay.
spot, but.
Discussion.
We'll talk
And
about
then, again, the on-street parking, so.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? All right. And I will read an executive session.
Before we adjourn, just want to remind everybody, we are using VoteCast for the first time tonight.
Don't screw
We've
up.
all been through training, but just as we're going through it, we're going to be a little more paced about making our motions and voting as we kind of get through this first agenda. So we appreciate in advance, we
process.
appreciate your patience and cooperation.
Your learning process.
Yeah.
Look at Robert already moving things on the agenda.
Well, that's a good test.
I've already alerted
I
the
know you
masses.
have.
Better to do it here than on the fly.
I understand.
Correct.
All right. B1, council may convene into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding, discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or sale of real property north of Farmers Branch Lane, south of Valwood, east of I-35, and west of Josie. We will recess and come back into executive session. The time is 4:38.